Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday special. If you're new to these videos, what I do every week is I go through the technical analysis and concepts that I will be looking at going into the week ahead. We talk about trade ideas and all sorts of stuff. Before we get too far into the video, please do me a favor and give this video a like down below if you do enjoy these segments, and I will continue to do them so long as people are supporting and continuing to enjoy them here on the channel. You know that's what we're all about here on the channel, is realistic, down-to-earth trading, and that's what we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So Euro USD is the first one on the docket here. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart, because the daily, I feel like we've talked about this, or at least we did talk about this last week. We talked about the fact that, okay, we broke through major resistance, right? And things did, in fact, hold out for the rest of 2020, which in fact reminds me that this is our first market special for the week of 2021, which is really, really cool. So if you were watching videos back in 2020 on this, then that is awesome. So if you remember from some of those videos, we talked about the breakout here on Euro USD and how if price could break above that 1.2 level, I imagine that it would probably continue for the rest of the year. And that is actually what we saw happen. So I have to pat myself on the back a little bit there, because we did have a good call out. We have had a good bullish trend go and continue on Euro USD for the remainder of the year. Now it brings us into 2021. And the question is Euro dollar going to continue? And the real big question is, what's the US dollar going to do? Because right now the US dollar being very, very weak has driven this price up, right? Because the euro and the pound and other things have risen compared to that weak US dollar. Is the US dollar going to continue to be bearish? Well, my opinion is yes. During the whole pandemic situation, the Fed had to print a lot of money, and a lot of money has rushed since then during the recovery into all sorts of other different, more risky investments than just holding the US dollar. Typically, the US dollar is like a safe haven. People put their money in the US dollar as kind of like unsure about other things. Like they don't want to buy stocks. They don't want to have, they don't want to lend money, that sort of thing. They want to put it into something a little bit more stable, or cash, right? So people put money in cash during times of fear. Well, we're in full-blown recovery mode, and I don't think that that is going to end right now. So with that said, I think that this could lead to a further push on the Euro USD. Now, in the meantime, there may be some pullbacks. So that's why I think we got to take a look at the 4-hour chart going into this week and see, hey, are there any pullback zones that catch our eye here? Well, one that stands out to me real quick here is this zone here at that 1.215, okay? If price pulls down to this area, very possible we could get a nice little bounce off of that and continue higher. However, let's look at something kind of interesting here. We've got this kind of shorter term. If you're looking at the 4-hour chart, we got this trend line here. Very possible that if that one does break, it could lead to a bit more of a downward push. Now, the question will be, will it immediately be held at this previous resistance, now support? That's going to be the question. And I can't tell you for sure, because no one knows exactly what's going to happen in the markets. However, we can align probabilities in our favor and take a trade that makes sense. So for example, if price comes down to this area, what I'd probably be looking for is some sort of sign of support, some sort of sign in the price action that buyers want to hold this area. That might look like a bullish pin bar, right? That may look like a bullish engulfing, right? Some sort of candlestick pattern on that lower time frame scale to try and see if there's any potential there. So if that were to set up, let's say we look for a trade there. For example, let's say price comes down to that area. Well, the cool thing is here we have a pretty good idea of what's a reasonable stop, because we have support here and just this general resistance, right? I like to keep my stops a little bit loose, because I'd rather let the trade kind of have room to breathe, and I'm not afraid of taking a loss. I'm just going to give the trade the best chance I can of becoming a profitable one. So in this case, if price comes down here, we've got kind of a pretty good support zone in this whole congestion area. If price breaks through that lower, then very, very possible we're probably headed back to that 1.2 retest. So with that said, I'd probably put a stop here. Okay, that gives me underneath that 200 on the 4-hour chart. It gives me underneath this support zone, right? And then the question becomes, well, where's the target on this? It depends if you use one. For me, I don't actually use a take profit very often in my trading, because I like to let things run with a trailing stop. But for the sake of people who like to use it, just as an idea of a target area, I think since this is breaking out higher, check this out. This is kind of interesting because we really don't have any relative resistance or structure. Of course, you could make the argument, oh, well, maybe it pauses at the recent high, but that's not necessarily how a trend works, right? What does a trend do? It makes higher highs, right? So we can almost anticipate that if the trend is going to continue, it's very likely going to continue past the previous high. So with that said, let's do some fib extensions. So let's say, for example, that our trend goes from, well, actually, there's multiple ways you can draw this. But let's just say, for example, that this is the trend we're looking at, okay? Let's say we do call the pullback correctly. This is called a fib extension, and it is a really good trend following tool. It's a really simple concept. All it is it's using fibs and extending those levels of where price could go if the trend continues. Okay, so for example, a one-to-one expansion here, if we actually take the distance, is that the same? I feel like I'm not 100% about this. Yeah, it is the same. Okay, so a one-to-one extension is basically this distance happening again, right? That run happening again. And that to me is a pretty decent opportunity or idea. So the idea here is that, okay, we take that trade and this gives us roughly a 2.5 to 1. So if price comes down here, we get tagged in, some sort of support, some sort of price action that looks bullish there, and then we look for the long setup, a 100% continuation of this trend here is very possible, especially if we do break through that high and we form a higher high, right? So we're almost anticipating that if the trend continues, that gives us a decent scenario. I actually like that trade setup a lot, and that might be something that I take this week. Of course, if I take any trades, if you're not already a member with us, come sign up. There's a membership that I offer, myself and our company. We've got a team of people who put it together. We've got webinars in there and all sorts of content for traders, as well as any trades that I take or any of our analysts take. You can see the full details, explanations, all of that sort of stuff inside. Click the link down below in the description, and there's a promo code for you to try it out for a discount. So check it out. That's my sales pitch for the day, but seriously, it's well worth the money, and it is something that I wish I had when I was an aspiring trader back in the day starting out. Okay, so let's move on to something else. We spent some time there on euro dollar. Let's talk about pound dollar for a second. Pound dollar just moving higher. You can see we broke right through resistance. And so now the question is there going to be any sort of pullback here? And I think that, again, here we are on the 4-hour chart. We might even have to drop this down in the 1 hour going into this week to see, hey, if there's anything retesting this area I love for a buy, right? Because again, going off that US dollar bearishness, that favors a GBP push higher, okay? So if this were to happen, there's a setup there as well. I like that, and that might be something I'm looking for this week as well. So for example, something like, using your structure, using general areas of resistance, past resistance here, holding, breaking, now any sort of retest. If it happens, it may not happen, but if it does, I like the idea of trend following and letting that runner continue. You can kind of see it would make sense almost with the way the market has been behaving. We've got these higher lows, we've got this little trend line, price comes back to it, bam, it holds this area and continues long. Okay. However, it's not as good of a setup as euro dollar in my opinion. I like euro dollar a bit more. However, let's keep going. Let's take a look at gold and see if there's anything here for us on the old XAU USD. So gold holding this resistance level pretty well last week, topping out multiple times before pulling back. And you can actually see, look at this 200 hourly. Look how well it's been holding right now. Now that brings me to two ideas. Number one is looking for a pullback to try and catch it and trying to run with the trend because it is still trending higher. In fact, we should probably take a look at the 4-hour and the daily chart. You can see on the 4-hour chart, we're starting to put in those higher lows. So this is bullish to me on gold. And on the daily, I just know that we've bounced off that 200-day. You can see there's the 200-day moving average. We bounced off. And the big thing here is we're starting to break out of this level here. So to me, going into this week, gold is super bullish. And I will personally be looking for any sort of opportunities, any sort of pullbacks or reasonable ways to enter gold long if possible. So that's going to be definitely on my watch list going into this week. Okay, let's bring it down to the 1-hour chart just for a moment there again. So again, holding this resistance pretty well. If we were to break it and pull back, that's my favorite setup right there, right? We've got kind of a ceiling in price. We've got that higher time frame trending higher. right? And if we get a bust through that resistance level and then a retest of that area, that to me is buy central, okay? So just some ideas for you going into this week. Of course, do your own due diligence, take your own trades, don't copy other people. That is a losing strategy when it comes to real trading. Real traders don't copy others. They use the analysis and ideas of others to their advantage and go do their own due diligence and decision-making process. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy trading this week. Be careful out there. Don't be stupid. Keep to your risk management plans and all of your other good trading practices. Thanks so much, and we'll see you back next time.